what we're doing here. So, first of all, I'm Dylan Kearns, and this is our first in a series of. Oh, my Markdown package is amazing. Thank you. But I'm going to turn my notifications off. Thanks for the reminder. Um, so this is the first in a series of live coding streams on Twitch. It's my first time using Twitch, so if I have some sort of technical issue or anything like that, like sound not working, for example, hypothetically, let us know. So the goal of this live stream series is just to kind of work on Elm open source projects and learn some cool Elm coding techniques from people in the community, like Jeroen. So I'll pass it over to Jeroen to give a quick intro. Thanks so much for joining us, Jeroen, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Jeroen. I think the first thing that people need to know is how to pronounce my name. So if you're familiar with German, this is how you pronounce it, Jeroen.
Nice.
If you're familiar with French, Jeroen is the way to go. And if you only know how to pronounce, if you're only familiar with English, Jeroen is fine.
Love that.
That will do. So I'm a software developer. I joined Humio a few months ago, and they have a big Elm code base, and that is pretty fun to work with. I am the author of Elm Review, which you haven't heard much about recently, but you will soon, and I think that after that you won't stop hearing from me, because I will blog a lot, I think. So lots of cool things that will come out soon. And yeah.
Awesome. So Jeroen is joining us today. Well, before I get into the topic, I'm very excited to dive into this because Jeroen has some awesome stuff to share. But just one really cool thing before we start. On air, how cool is this little on air button that actually works? If we weren't on air, this would not be here, and it's like kind of glowing a little bit. Pretty excited about that. I'm having fun just kind of getting some sessions going and playing around with like the setup and all this stuff. And in fact, I'm going to be, I've got a couple more sessions in the pipeline where I'm going to be coding on some Markdown parsing stuff, and I'm really excited to just kind of get more Elm content out there because I think a lot of people like myself are hungry for more content. So hope this is useful. Okay, so Jeroen, why don't you give us a quick intro to just this concept of like the builder pattern? Maybe let's start with the builder pattern before we talk about the phantom builder element of it, and then we're going to dive into some code.
Yeah. So maybe I'll write some code. That might be. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Probably not. So let me. Let's see. Are you sharing your screen?
I think I am. Oh, no.
Okay. Let me pull our Skype window over here. Can people see Jeroen's screen?
I can't see the chat anymore, so.
Yes. Okay.
Awesome. So what is the builder pattern? So the builder pattern is a very, very nice pattern to build configurable things. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't already, I really suggest watching a robot button from Mars that Brian Hicks presented. I can't show it to you because I've disabled YouTube while on my work computer. So basically the idea is you start with, you build something from scratch, and then you add things. Mm-hmm. So for example, if we build a button, what are the required things that we need, it's probably a text and probably a message, like message type. And then maybe we want other things, but that are not required. So like with red, with danger style or whatever. And you build things up like this. And then at the end you say, now I'm ready with this, we're building this, and I want to an HTML code. So yeah, that is kind of the pattern.
Right. So like kind of the problem, would you say that the problem it solves is that rather than having, I guess it's a couple of things. From talking to you, the things that are really cool about it are, number one, you don't have to pass in a record with every possible configuration option. Like maybe there's some optional things, and you can just not tack on those options. And then the other thing is, if there are like, if you can do either this or that, then you can have a way, instead of having a bunch of custom types that wrap these optional things, you can either call this one function to add this option or call another function to add a different option. But that's where we get to the really interesting part here, which I think that this is going to be new for a lot of people in the community. I know that when you shared this technique with me, it was really new for me. So like, let's take the question of, you can either have one type of option or another, but not both. If you do that with the builder pattern, then you can't prevent having both of those two things, which you shouldn't have together, because you can have one or the other, but not both. So you want to give us a quick overview of that technique?
Yeah. So the example that I usually have in mind is, let's say I want a button that can be disabled, but if it's disabled, you don't want to have an unclick handler. Mm-hmm. So you could do this. You could have with unclick and with disabled. I'm going to remove everything else. So we want either a disabled button or one with unclick. But you can do both. Yep. And that is just weird and probably not what you expect. In this example, you might sometimes need to have both, like for analytics, to know when a disabled button was clicked, but you got plenty of such examples that you can find. You can't say button with button big, let's say, and button small.
Right.
That doesn't make sense. Just choose one. So shall I delve into the pattern already?
Or maybe. Let's see. Maybe let's get going with some code a little bit, and then we can flip back to like the button example if we need to for the actual phantom part. What do you think about that? So yeah, why don't we dive into some coding? So,
suspense for the people.
That's right. That's right. You gotta stay tuned for the phantom part. The phantom part, I mean, that's the really interesting part, right? Builder isn't that interesting, but phantoms. So, somebody's asking in the chat, will this be available to watch later? And it will. Yes. So I'll definitely be posting these on YouTube afterwards.
Are you recording?
That is a great question. Let me double check. I am recording.
Yes. We don't have to redo all of this.
That's right. Okay, so let's dive into some code. So the problem that I have for us today to hack on is in elm-pages. So I'll give a brief overview of elm-pages for anyone who's not familiar. So elm-pages there's just a lot to cover, so I'm going to have to keep it very surface level. But it's a static site generator for Elm. And it allows you to generate, performant, SEO-friendly static sites, and it, pulls together your markdown content and things like that. So there are a lot of options. So the way that you configure an elm-pages application is very similar to the way you do like a browser.application, except as you can see, the record is a lot bigger. So browser.application has a init update subscriptions view.
I don't see your screen.
Oh, then I'll have to share it on the Skype so Jeroen can see it too. That would be important. Everyone but Jeroen can see it. Okay, there we go. Good. Okay, so yeah, we've got init update subscriptions view. That's pretty familiar. They're a little different, which we'll probably get into later. But for now, just know that those are kind of more or less the same as a browser application. But then we've got some other things like a manifest. So for a progressive web app, you have a thing called a manifest file. Elm-pages lets you configure that. There's this sort of hook, which is the generate files hook. So for Elm-pages, like if you go to the elmpages.com/blog/feed.xml, this is actually being generated by a generate files hook. I can show you the code for it. It's right here, generate files. And then I'm doing just a sitemap, which all it's doing is it's returning this data type, and then it generates files at this path with this content. And if you have an error, then it will give you a build time error. So Elm-pages is kind of like extending the Elm platform so that you don't just build like a dynamic web app, but it's giving you additional platform features for things you'd want to do for a static website, like generated files, like RSS files. We've got all of these options that you can add on. What I'd like to do today is I think it would be really cool to have a way for people to build packages for Elm-pages so they can extend it as plugin authors. So for example, for an RSS, right now we're saying we're generating an RSS feed. And I just have this like simple package that I've published here that generates an RSS feed. You pass in some options, and then it generates a feed. What I'm thinking would be really cool is if we could. So
these are like plugins, or
yeah. So like
things that enrich the Elm-pages?
Yes, exactly. So the basic idea would be that a plugin author would be able to say like, RSS plugin, and it takes like the user's config, and then it says, and then whatever thing we have from the user, and it says user config, and then it says like, I don't know, pages builder dot add add generated file, and then it has whatever arguments it has there, and then it gives some files to generate. And then in addition to adding a generated file, I want to add a head tag. So Elm-pages also has the ability to add these head tags. Like if we go to the Elm-pages site, if we look in the head tag, we've got things like this description, like meta description, a statically typed site generator, Elm-pages. Well, that's coming from our head function. So it's using the site tagline for the description. And so that's generated programmatically. So we can add these head tags. Well, when you add an RSS feed, you want to add something to the head tag that makes that RSS feed discoverable. So for a package author, they'd want to be able to say, add head tag as well to, add an RSS head tag.
Okay.
So that's what I'm thinking for the goal for today.
Yeah, and then you would add this RSS plugin to your elm-pages config.
Exactly. So you would have your config, you would like the user, my application. So instead of it being, so like right now, let's go to this example. Okay, so this is how we're building it up right now. But instead of this, the builder main, we're going to build it up by saying, let's just call it like builder for now. We're going to say like builder.init with whatever initial things.
Yeah.
We're going to pass in init and view and update or whatever core things we need. Now, actually, one thing I've been thinking about is what if, like, how Elm has these different ways to configure an application where you can do a sandbox or an element or document or browser.application. Well, what if there was a way to have different builder options that instead of having to do it, because in terms of changing it out, sometimes it can be a pain because you change it out to use one of the new functions and now you just get a type error that's pointing you to 12 different things. And now you have to add, there's a missing key subscriptions when you go from sandbox to whatever. Well, what if you just had the option to say with subscriptions and then add subscriptions? So, so there's a lot we could do with this. But what I was kind of thinking, Jeroen, is what if we just start by having a builder, like let's do the simplest thing where we can actually have a thing that lets us build this application config. And starting with just like builder.init, and you pass it everything that you currently pass an elm-pages application. And then
so
little by little, we can move some of the things out into a builder style. Does that sound like a good approach?
Sounds good to me.
Cool.
So basically at the beginning, you just copy Pages platform application.
Yeah, well, and I was even thinking, what if there's actually a lot, is there a lot going on there? I guess not. But what if we just wrapped it? So like, okay, let's make a module. Okay, so pages. Like let's make a module called Pages Builder. And then, so let's see, my application, here's like our example application. And because I don't want to worry too much about the internals of this, and so like
a wrapper is a very good idea.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so like what if I just copy this big old type signature? So copy that guy.
So basically your application is the low level API and the page builder is a high level.
Exactly. So it's actually kind of interesting because it's something you could build in the user space. It doesn't have to be something that the core package author makes. I mean, for example, like Luke Westby had, this this package that is pretty popular for like an HTTP builder, which he doesn't need access to low-level things. It's a high-level abstraction on top of it.
Yeah.
Let's see. I need page path. I need static HTTP. I just want to make sure I import these the same way.
Maybe you could copy all the imports.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Sometimes I do that too, actually. And then just let it, aha, these are from my application.
Okay, that's not gonna work.
Wait a minute. I need to copy them. I copied it from the wrong place.
Oh.
I should copy it from here. That's much easier. There we go. Good idea. Nice. That's why pair programming is awesome. So, we don't need to run the tests right now.
So we need
Maybe this is called like init.
yeah.
And I guess it's
not going to build a
it's
program.
not going to build a
right
program directly. So it's really going to take this and give me this. What do you think?
So you would probably build a new type.
Okay.
So a builder type, whatever. Application schema.
How about this? Just builder. Just a little dummy. Okay, so this is called init. And it just gives us a builder. Okay. Hey, we're compiling.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Is it?
So
Oh yeah.
let's say like example is, and we'll say init, and we're gonna have to pass it a bajillion options.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So one thing we could do is we could just have debug.todos for each of these to like see what happens, you know? What do you think of that?
Yep.
So we could say like init is debug.todo, or
You're gonna have two inits.
yeah, app init.
Yeah.
So now it's happy about the init part, but we have to do all the other keys. So,
And because this is not really nice to write, that's why you build it. You use it.
Exactly. It's demonstrating exactly why this technique is useful. So, and actually, let's just do this so we can get compiler feedback as we go. Okay, so for anyone who's not familiar with this, so here it's saying we need init, that's this type, and then if we give it init, it's happy. So for anyone who's not familiar with using debug.todo, I think that it's actually like even some pretty advanced Elm people I think are not familiar with this technique. It's very handy. It's just it's basically like something like in TypeScript the anytype, except that it won't run at runtime, whereas TypeScript's anytype will just be like, okay, I'll try running the code and see what happens, but in Elm, it's just a way to crash, but you can return any type, and it'll just kind of be a wildcard type, which turns out to be quite handy. So like if I add a type annotation, the annotation is A, it's anything. So we can just use this to satisfy the compiler.
Yeah, and the compiler will tell you if you use it in production.
Exactly, yeah. So if you try to do elm make -- optimize, it will not let you, which is awesome. Okay, cool. So what do you think I should do next, Jeroen? Should I just keep going through each? We don't necessarily need to do all of them right away to prove out some of the concepts here.
Yeah, I would probably build to program or to elm-pages application function.
Cool.
Because right now it compiles, but it doesn't do anything useful.
Yes.
But this will, if we do this, this will make, yeah, debug to do will be fine, I guess.
For now.
For now, for now.
Okay, so this is
So
going
that
to
would take a
return this.
builder
Right.
and return what you just copied, probably. We don't have a model at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. By the way, I'm to everybody out there streaming this. I'm keeping an eye on the chat, so feel free to post a question in there if there's something that we, go over, or if you want clarification on anything. Because this is there's a lot going on here, both with this pattern and with this particular elm-pages configuration structure. So feel free to ask questions. All right, so cool. What do you think I should do next here?
Right. So yeah, I would probably not use debug to do here.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing that will give us feedback about what we need to do next.
Right. Okay, cool. So then I'll, well, right now our builder is just, isn't this the only variant for our builder?
Yeah, but you have a conflict of naming.
Oh. Really?
Elm format doesn't let you do that.
Wait, why can't... Wait, so if this had a type variable, then it would...
Yeah, just do that and that will be
Really?
fine.
Oh, that's in... I didn't know that. That's an interesting piece of Elm trivia. Huh.
Yeah, it's not very useful though.
Yeah. I'm impressed that you do that without flinching. Wow. Nice. Kudos to you.
But
10 trivia points to you, Jeroen. Okay. Cool. So you're saying that we should actually try to build it. I think we're going to have to deal with this. So
yeah.
What should we do first? Should we what's a good strategy here? Should we start commenting these things out and actually have a proper config, or should we start here and try to actually get our to application? What do you think?
I think to application might be best.
Okay.
Both. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, sounds good. So,
But since this is not the most interesting part to showcase or to, we can try this quickly, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try to use all the dirty tricks we can to get this working. Okay.
How to put type in Elm.
Okay. So, well, I guess I could. Should I store the init in our builder?
Yeah. At some point we will need to do that at least.
Okay.
So let's do it now.
Should I do it like this?
Yeah. And this will tell us that we need a lot of type variables. I'm just warning you, the phantom type variable, phantom type technique will not feel very great with all these.
Interesting. Well, now we've got the suspense going because we haven't even gotten to the phantom part. Okay.
I say it's not going to be great, but it's still going to be very awesome.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I can't do that because shadowing. Okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being explicit. I actually like. I think it's a legitimate strategy to just avoid destructuring for record destructuring. Although I like this kind of destructuring. Okay.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Yes.
When you need to pattern match, that is really like just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably do config dots here too.
I guess I may as well just do this.
Yeah.
This one I can pass an empty list. Phew. I mean,
Okay.
I I can pass like empty strings here. Like as much as we can defer, let's do that. I mean, really, we can like generate files. It's well, okay.
Yeah, let's just do this one. And then you make them dirty in the init.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. Okay. Okay. And internals here is like this generated thing that elm-pages gives you with some internal details for your app. So config.manifest. Okay. Cool. So I'm gonna need all this stuff.
Yeah.
So should I just copy this into here?
Yeah, I think you yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Here
go
we
ahead.
go.
View and
Okay.
yeah, that's it.
Well, it's happy with that, but it's going to be really mad at us about some other stuff.
Yeah, especially in the init function.
Yeah. Yep. Well, okay. So here's where we could just say, uncomment this out,
Mm-hmm.
and then, I mean, we're basically just going to pass this down like this.
Yeah. I guess.
Yeah, we're going to have to do quite a bit to keep the Elm compiler happy for a while here. Okay.
Yeah, but at least if this this will soon compile, I guess. But at least we can start working on the API because we're not the implementation details will be non-important.
Right. Okay, well, so now it's just our example that's unhappy. So that's good. So add a type annotation. Well, we want it to be. Let's have let's say we're a user using this, right? And if I've got my
Mhm.
model and my message, this is a very sophisticated app.
Wow, awesome! You can build so many cool things with elm-pages.
Yeah, I know. Good thing we have all these record fields. It's powerful stuff. So
So, for example, you're missing a lot of fields, and you need to
yes,
call to application too.
I need to call to application. Okay.
And I'll add all the missing ones.
Add all. You say it like it's so easy. But you know what? I can. Let's just.
Debug to do.
Yeah, let's just do this for now, and then. Oh wait, no, but they have to be the same type, so that won't work. That's the really powerful thing about debug.todo is it will say it can be anything, but if it's any one thing here,
Mm-hmm.
but
will
it
need
has to
same
be
thing?
two different things. It won't just let those two things be different. It has to be consistent still.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is what makes it really powerful. So
And less usable.
there's definitely a trade-off. Definitely a trade-off.
Yeah. Ah.
Okay. I think this is Making progress. Canonical. Let's see. What do you want? So much config. This is all just proving how useful this pattern will be. So another thing that'll be really cool with this pattern is I want to avoid when I like add a new feature in this API, I want it to be a non-breaking change. So that'll be really exciting, because if I extend the platform and say, hey, here's a hook, you can generate files based on your metadata here. It shouldn't be a breaking change if you're not going to use it yet. It should just be a new function that you can call.
Yeah, exactly. The reason why it would be a breaking change is because you would need to change the record
where everything is required. Exactly.
Yeah.
But the builder pattern allows you to have like some sensible defaults.
Yeah, as long as you don't need new type variables in the type.
Right. Hey, what? No way. Wow, this is so advanced. We have a crashing app, a very sophisticated crashing application.
It's crashing in so many places.
But hey, this isn't crashing. This is a hard-coded to-do string, so there's a lot going on here. Okay, so cool.
Let's get to good stuff.
Let's get to the fun stuff. Okay, so what do you think we should do next here?
I think we should remove a few things from the init function and change have them as a builder pattern function.
Okay.
So which one is not mandatory?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's a good one that's optional? So generate files is a good example, right? Because that was literally what happened. That I said, hey, here's this shiny new feature. Sorry, it's a breaking API change. But actually, you can probably just install the new version and not change anything. But, it's annoying. So let's try that maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, so where to start?
So the way we would do that is in the init function, you would get a new you would add a default value.
Right. Okay, so yes. Now let me satisfy my OCD here a little bit and just do a commit.
Sounds very good.
Just because
even when you're prototyping, commit.
Exactly. Things. I mean, I'm one of those people. I don't know, like playing video games. I'm one of those people that would save every time. Like I take 10 steps without my character dying. Save. Commits are the same thing. It's great.
But we don't really care about the commit messages.
That's true. That's true.
Well, no, actually, we're building a real project, so yeah.
Right.
This is not an example project. So yeah, in the init function, first of all, I think we should remove the
generate files. Right.
The generate files function.
Cool.
Now we will
something's going to complain. Okay, and I mean, we could just get it to not complain. Why don't we just stub out the thing to make it stop complaining, and then we'll move that, make it configurable. Okay.
Yep.
So generate files. So generate files, it takes this metadata, and then it returns a static HTTP request. So I'll explain a little bit about that. Let me get this compiling first. So it takes some stuff, and then it returns static HTTP data. And let's see. Takes a list of these things, and it returns static HTTP request, the list of something. So what's it unhappy about? Extra fields generate. Oh, I did that in the wrong spot. That's actually not where it's unhappy. It's unhappy here. Okay, so that's happy there. Okay, so just for people who haven't used elm-pages, let me give a really brief explanation of static HTTP. It's actually the docs are pretty comprehensive, so you can check that out if you're interested. But static HTTP is just a way to fetch data at build time rather than at runtime. So if you make an HTTP request in Elm, you get a command, you send that up, you get a message back when you get your HTTP data. With elm-pages and static HTTP, there's no message involved. In fact, at runtime, it's not making an HTTP request. It makes it at build time. So you do your build. So actually, 199 stars. So let's go to the GitHub repo. It's actually possible that there are 200 stars. What? 200 stars on elm-pages? That's awesome. So so notice that the number of stars is out of sync. Why is that? Well, if I trigger a new build on Netlify, it's gonna at build time grab the latest value and make that request to the GitHub API. So that's what static HTTP does. For things like actually the incremental Elm live page is doing that same thing. So the on-air thing is actually a regular HTTP request because I don't want that to require a build to get the latest version. But the events are a static HTTP request that happens at build time, and then that JSON response is just bundled up as a static file. So that's static HTTP. In the case of generate files, it's kind of cool because you can, in the CLI step, you can generate files based on static HTTP responses that only occur during the CLI build step. So it doesn't affect the performance of the actual site. So anyway, that's static HTTP. So cool.
So I wouldn't have changed it here actually.
Yes.
Because I think you removed it from the type. You removed generate files from the builder type, where you should have removed it from the init arguments.
Oh. Yes. Yes. Okay. Nice. Okay. Remove it
So
from
you can
init.
just remove all your Git
See,
changes.
that's why we use Git. That's why it seems like it's silly, but it already paid off. Nice.
And then you do it with IntelliJ.
Yes.
But keep this line in your copy paste
Yep.
thing.
Absolutely. Generate files.
Yeah. So we built
Nice.
we had a sub one. We had a fake one in it,
Right.
or one that doesn't
Right.
do anything.
Yeah, it's actually not right because it's actually not fake. It's like appendable. We can yeah. So that's awesome. Hey, how about a commit? Cool.
We didn't add a builder for generate
I
files
know
yet.
that's true, but it would have taken more than 2 seconds to make that change. So my brain was like, just go for it. No stopping, commit message, do it. All right.
Well, let's add it.
Oh, are you for real? All right. Are we doing this?
Sure. Let's add our first builder function.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the commit message. All right, we're going. First builder function.
No.
So, sweet. What should we call it?
I usually call it with functions, like
With generated file?
yeah, with generated files function, or yeah, this is up to you now.
Right. So now here's the kind of interesting thing, and this is cool because the way I'm thinking about elm-pages, like more and more, I'm thinking about like the extensible web manifesto, which like the basic philosophy of that is you don't have to think about every possible use case. You give the low-level building blocks, and then people can build tools that make their use case really nice if you give those low-level primitives. And if those primitives, do what they need to be secure, performant, in our case, like type safe, all these things. If you give primitives that have all those qualities, then people can build high-level things that make their use case really nice. So with generate files, you can do it depending on static HTTP. Well, maybe it would be convenient to have a helper that doesn't force you to wrap it with static HTTP. That's an option that's opened up to us with the builder pattern, because we can provide multiple ways to do this.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I would actually call it with file generator.
Ooh.
Because we will pass a function.
Love that. That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then it takes the builder.
Yeah. Which you probably want to deconstruct. Yeah.
And then that should get us compiling.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what is that? So you'll need to add the type. You replace A, because that is not very useful.
So generate files, it takes this, so we can kind of do something like this. We might have to tweak it a little bit.
So much bigger.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot going on here.
And here I was thinking with the Elm review functions, like that the type annotations were way too big. Nah, they're fine. They're fine. Don't worry.
Right. Well, see, but that's the thing is elm-pages is extending the Elm platform. And as a platform, you want these nice building blocks, but maybe we want like a simplified set of building blocks, right? Just like Elm has browser.application if you want to do something really fancy, but maybe you just want a sandbox and you don't want to deal with subscriptions and commands and stuff. So we can do similar things with a builder. Okay, so we've got generate files. It doesn't, are these not matching up in some way? Path key, metadata, builder config.
Oh, you need a parentheses around the whole generate files function.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Good eye. All right. Nice.
So let's add generate files to the config.
So we're just going to replace it for now.
Yeah. And I think that will probably be the end result, unless you want to change your current type.
So see, that's the thing I'm imagining, is that I think it would be really cool, like, so back to this original use case I was talking about of having the ability for a package like plugin author to make an elm-pages plugin for RSS.
Mm-hmm.
If it could take your config and then say, well, take their config, but I want to generate this file, and I also want to add this head tag. So the thing is, we don't want to replace the entire file generation. We just want to add one file to generate.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, so you probably want a list of file generators.
Well, I'm even thinking like you can call with file generator as many times as you want, and we'll just, so like I think we can, let's see.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what I do in Elm Review too. Yeah.
So we can kind of tweak this, right? If we say like,
but you will need to make changes in the elm-pages application to make this work. So
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if
if you want it to be.
I think we might be able to do something clever here. Like, so generate files returns a static HTTP request. So I think we can actually say static http.map2.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Oh, list of. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. First try.
Good job. Nice. Oh.
So what this is doing is so it's taking these two static HTTP requests, and through magic, it's gonna combine them. It actually deals with under the hood. The CLI, the elm-pages CLI, will actually not perform requests multiple times. It'll, if the request has already been performed with those exact, URLs, body, method, all those things, it will just grab it from a dictionary and then run whatever decoding it needs to on it.
Okay.
So yeah, there we go. That's pretty cool.
Okay.
So
So
I guess we could. Well, you know what? What if our example was building an RSS plugin, or like doing the type of thing that the RSS plugin author would do?
Yeah.
So like with.
How are we with time though?
Oh, that's a great question. How are we with time? Well, we've got 30 minutes.
Okay. That one.
So, yeah. Well, let's see if we call this, and we're saying I don't care about the arguments that you give me. The with file generator, the arguments it gives you is your elm-pages metadata. So, if you've got like all of your blog posts will have metadata, and it will pass you that. So you can go through each blog post and add that with your RSS feed, for example. So found a list of path to list of result.
Yeah.
Why does it? Okay, let's see. Now, this is the cool thing about debug.todo. If I just say, is there anything that satisfies this? There is. Now, actually, if we call this file generator and pass this in here, and let's just say debug.todo, here's a little trick I like to use. So, okay, that satisfies the compiler. But what would the type need to be? Well, if the type is anything, it satisfies it. But I'm going to say it's like, I don't know, it takes something and it returns a list of some other thing. No, it's not that.
Static HTTP?
Yes, you're exactly right. It returns a static HTTP request wrapping a list of something. Exactly. So now we can so now this will satisfy that type in. Not quite, because we have to do static HTTP succeed. Now that satisfies it, we can actually, if we want, put the proper annotation on there, which is, well, we don't really care.
Yeah, which is this, no?
Yeah, although that was just for the purpose of figuring out what we were doing wrong there, which it served its purpose. So there we go, inlined. Okay, so cool. With file generator is wired through.
Yeah, we probably need to expose it, but we don't care about the certain moments, but yeah.
Okay, cool. So what is next? So we've got like less than 30 minutes here. What would we like to do?
Well, what kind of things would you not like to have? Like
In the core thing that you have to pass in? Like what kinds of things would I like to be optional?
no, what kind of things would you like not to be possible? Like
Ah,
having two files, which in this case is okay, but
yes. Okay, I see what you're saying. What constraints do I want to add? Yes. Well, so like we've got a canonical site URL.
mhm.
That's an example of something that we don't want you to call with canonical site URL. Well, actually, canonical site URL is like a required thing. So that's probably not a good example because that should probably just be in init. Where when you init the builder, you must pass in a canonical site URL. And then we don't need anything fancy to guarantee that constraint because, that's all there is
Yeah.
to it. So, okay, so what's a better example? What's a constraint we want to have?
So you want an init, an update, subscriptions,
Mm-hmm.
view. Maybe you don't want. Are subscriptions optional?
Yes.
And maybe you don't want um, two with
That
subscriptions
seems
or something.
that seems reasonable because how are you going to use subscriptions? Like, that's not really something that we want to say with subscription something, with subscription something. I mean, you could do that, but
But
there's no reason to.
well, and then you wouldn't know well which subscriptions is going to be used, the
Exactly.
first one or the second one,
Okay.
and you'll have to look at the implementation for that.
I like that idea. Okay, so Jeroen is teeing us up here to dive into the actual phantom part, which we promised. So as promised, uh, we are gonna segue into using phantom types to ensure a constraint. So what Jeroen is suggesting here is basically let's show what that would look like. That we would have something that says with subscriptions, and if you want, you can not call with subscriptions. You can just not call with subscriptions, and that's fine. Or you can call it, but you can't call it multiple times. So Jeroen is saying we want a compiler error here.
Yeah.
But if we do this, fine without doing anything like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we don't necessarily need a compiler error. We could also crash at runtime, but as we are used to in the Elm community, like
Yeah,
if you can get the error sooner, then
exactly.
that,
That's right. That's right. And it would be, well, yeah. With elm-pages, it is interesting because we have the ability to crash at build time. So if you do a new netlify deploy and in fact there are constraints that are like that where it's like if you generate multiple files with the same name, types aren't going to help us, validate that. So we can have a build time error where your users will never see that error, but it's still better if we can avoid it and have it be a compiler error. So in this case, we can. Okay, so where should we start?
we should probably start with adding with subscriptions.
Sounds good to me. So where's our with file generator? Let's do it near that. Okay, so with subscription.
So that will give us a sub of message. Oh, okay.
And then builder config. So now we can actually get this compiling. So hey, yes, wow, we're really good at this here, and we've built an application so quickly. Okay, so
That does so many interesting non-things.
that's right, exactly. Well said. Okay, so this is like a sub user message. I should really just call it message. Like that was when I was like writing these types for the elm-pages platform. I'm like, oh, like because I have my messages because elm-pages wraps the user's application. So it's like, these are my messages. And then I'm like, oh, and then there's the user messages. But then I'm like, the user
The
shouldn't
user
care
doesn't
about
know.
that. When they're writing, they just are like, yeah, this is a message. So that, yeah, I'll revisit that at some point. But okay, let's call it user message for now. So builder. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty good.
right. So just add them to subscriptions, to the config, sorry.
Sweet.
It's a function that returns a sub,
Yes,
maybe?
it absolutely is. Yeah.
And it compiles.
Yay.
Good.
That's awesome.
So now can we do two? Yeah, let's fix the example. This compiles.
And this
So
this compiles.
almost.
But it shouldn't.
Yeah. So how do we make that happen?
Yes. Drum roll.
So
the phantom builder pattern. No, is that what you're calling it, Jeroen? What are you calling it?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you
the phantom builder is what I call it for now.
Yes, and if you're watching this, then tweet at Jeroen to pressure him into writing a blog post on this. Because we really need it, because it's solid stuff, and Jeroen has a lot of great stuff to say about it, but he needs to write that blog post. So peer pressure.
Yep.
All right.
After Elm review. So let's go to let's make a phantom type.
Ooh, spooky.
Yeah. So let's go to type builder and add a new.
Should we give a quick definition of a phantom type?
Yeah. So phantom type.
It's basically that it's like used in the definition as a type variable, and that type variable never shows up there. That's like the shallow definition, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's, the compiler will think it is a different type. Like when you say list of message and list of HTML message, well, list of string and list of int. For the compiler, there are different types. But you can also make a type where the type variable is not used, but the compiler will say these are two different types.
Yeah. Joel Kenville did a really nice talk at Elm in the spring last year where he talked about using phantom types for things like making sure that if you're adding two units together, that they're the same unit. So you don't add 2 centimeters plus 3 inches. But you can add 2 inches plus 3 inches. And Ian McKenzie has an Elm units package which uses that exact technique, and it's very simple, very cool. So if you want like a real world example, this definitely look at this package and look up Joel's Elm in the Spring talk last year. So cool. Okay, so how do I start adding my phantom type here?
So you just type you add another variable. So
is this
config
going to be a record, or you're saying config? Okay.
Yeah, it's a name thing.
Right. Yes, that's right. It's a name, and then it's going to have a concrete value when we use it elsewhere. Yes.
Yeah. So fix the compiler errors, because it will ask you to add config everywhere. Config is maybe not the best name, but I haven't found a good name for this yet.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like the builder state.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. But state is also, sure, builder state.
The thing about the phantom builder pattern that Jeroen is going to show us, so like Ian McKenzie's units package and, Joel's talk about using phantom types for units, it's not stateful. It's just, you can't add these two different types of units. But what Jeroen's showing for the phantom builder is you can actually keep track of state because he's using a trick with extensible records. So okay, so let's take a look at that.
So here you say what is my initial builder state. So you do that in the type annotation. So where you are.
Do I have any other errors? Oh, I have other errors here. So should I? What should these guys be?
Builder state.
Oh,
In this,
that's right. That's right.
yeah. Because in this
They're
case,
not
you don't want
changing the
to.
builder state.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this compiles, and we're gonna change with subscriptions,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna tell it. I have a requirement, which is that I need my builder state to be a record. So you can type a record here, which is a and slash whatever. Yeah, builder states pipe. Yeah, and I wanted to be able to add subscriptions. So like can add subscriptions.
Yep. Nice readable name.
Which
And
is,
that's your trick, right? You just say I just
yeah,
care about this field name. I don't care the value.
yeah. In some cases you do care about it, but in this case you don't. So what this now does with this function is that you take a builder which can add subscriptions, and as a result of the function, you get a builder state which cannot add subscriptions because
Nice.
I could. It was good before.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're right. Yes. So
yeah,
this is kind of saying, right, whatever fields you had before, keep those, but take this off, which is kind of crazy. So if there were other fields in this phantom type before, like can generate files or can include update function or something, those that builder state would be retained, but this is gone. Yeah,
yeah,
that is a powerful trick. So this is really key. So take a moment to process that, because it's a very subtle point. It's easy to miss. But this builder state is this exact record type with this subtracted. That's all it is.
yeah.
And in that
So
way, we can keep track of state. So we have the stateful builder where initially you can add subscriptions. Now you can't anymore. Yep.
yeah.
Cool.
So does this compile at the moment?
Ooh, so let's look at our compiler message. Look at that.
So
Awesome.
here we have another error that is not the one that we expected. Here we cannot add subscriptions at all.
Yes. Indeed, you're
because
right.
we need to say in the init, I want to be able.
That's right.
I want to allow adding subscriptions.
Yes. Okay.
So yeah, there. So in this case, it's not an extensible record. You just say the initial.
Okay, so now that compiles, but then where's our example? But so does this. So what are we doing wrong here? It's our to application. It's saying whatever builder. Wait, no.
That is correct. For a subscription. They should remove it. They should remove
You know what?
From the...
IntelliJ has its own Elm type system.
Can you try compiling? We broke IntelliJ.
Yeah, I think we did. Nice.
Let's test it out before making claims.
Right. Yeah.
How did you call the function? Pages builder. Source pages builder. Yeah, okay, you got it. Okay,
Yay!
good.
That's awesome.
We broke IntelliJ.
That is awesome. Yeah, that's right. So, okay, so this is pretty nifty. I want to highlight how nice this error message is, because when Jeroen first told me about this pattern, this was one of my first questions was, how are the error messages, right? Because is it going to be like super confusing for users? Well, I don't know. Let's say you're trying to add subscriptions and you're like, why the heck isn't this compiling? What's wrong? And then it says it's piping it to a function that expects a builder that can add subscriptions. I think I can. I think I can figure that out pretty well.
Yeah, I think you
Yeah.
will, like everyone will be, the first initial reaction would probably be, huh? But
Yeah. My
if you start
first,
digging into it, I think it's fine.
if I hadn't gotten a tour of this technique, then my first reaction would probably be, how the heck can the compiler even enforce that? So I would be confused, not at like the text I'm getting from the error message, but the possibility that I could even get one from that type of thing. But so the thing that's interesting about this is this feature of extensible records was kind of removed in Elm 19 from the runtime, but it still exists in the type system.
And thank God.
Yeah, because it's super powerful. So, like basically in the like in Elm 18, you could say update record thing. You know, like you could have like a record of type, you know, first name string, and then you could like. You could actually update that and say record with last name Doe.
Yeah.
And that would compile.
But that doesn't anymore.
But that no longer compiles because you can't do record update syntax where the type of the record changes. You just, if you take a record and extend it, you can do record update syntax, but it has to have the exact same type before and after the record update. But you can still do that in Elm types, which is pretty nifty. So so cool. So let's just to show people we're not lying, let's take this away and show that there's no compiler error. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Someone in the comment in the chat asked whether you can add fields back in, or is it strictly narrowing? You can add fields back in, which makes and this allows for conditionally allowing stuff. So let's say I'm building a country, and I can set the country's government. Like it's say this is a republic or this is a monarchy, and depending on if I use monarchy, then I can add a monarch, and if I choose a republic or then I can add a president. So you can make it so that you can only add a president if the country is a republic.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
And then you could have an overthrow function that clears it up for you.
You could. That is, yeah, you could. And someone also, well, actually, same person.
Yes.
Thank you, Matthias Funk. You can name the record field subscriptions only allowed once. That could be
subscriptions, or maybe exactly once. Yeah. And this is like.
Well, no, because you can have it 0 times.
Ah, yes. So that might be nice to say.
Yeah, but
must have 0.
I personally go over these all the time. So
yeah,
whatever feels most natural to you, ask a few people around if this is readable enough, I guess. And
well, I'm gonna change my suggestion from earlier to pester Jeroen about writing a blog post, and I'm gonna amend it to say pester him to write a blog series about this. And one of the blog posts in the series can be about naming conventions for it and different strategies.
As soon as I've made my mind up for about these.
Yeah. I would love to see some content on this because this is a super powerful technique, and I mean,
Yeah.
nice error messages. You know, I mean, I'm really excited to play around with this more and kind of see. I mean, you know, like we were talking about earlier, like you look at the way that you create an Elm sandbox element document application. Is is there a way that we can have a pattern that is a simpler way to do this, where you can add subscriptions and you get the same benefit of a record where you can only add it exactly once and you can still get nice error messages. So this could be a fun thing to play around with.
Yeah, I think you can, but the problem, for example, for Elm browser, is that when you add subscriptions,
Mm-hmm.
when you turn from a sandbox to a document,
Mm-hmm.
the function, the types of the other functions also change.
Right.
So you wouldn't need
Oh.
to be able to change them. So you can make it so that you
Yeah.
say with init with subscriptions,
Mm-hmm.
and that they require the other functions to be in a certain state. You could definitely
Mm-hmm.
do that, but I don't know if it would be much simpler than
Well,
this.
so here's an interesting idea. So the fact that like everything except sandbox, you're returning init is returning a tuple with model command, update model command, right? But then sandbox init is just a model. Well, what if you
Mhm.
had two different modules? So you had like the browser and the, browser dot sandbox module and the browser module. And if you do browser.sandbox, then it has like a with init, with view, with update that has these types.
Mhm.
And you can easily wrap the model in a tuple and use the same underlying type. Um,
Yeah.
and then
So
you could use the browser.sandbox functions, or you could switch to the browser functions for the things that have the updates. It feels like that would be easier to sort of incrementally add new things to your application as it becomes more advanced, like if you're doing a tutorial or if you're learning Elm.
yeah, I kind of do that with Elm Review, where I say
Mm-hmm.
I have a complex version and a simple version of the same thing. So
Right,
let's say an update. So it's with simple update and with updates. And under the hood, it's all the same
right.
thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, you don't even have to have two modules for this. Just one is fine. So another nice thing with this pattern is that you can represent two different things in the same type.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So my example of before, like you can represent a monarchy and a republic, um, but and still keep some things separate. So you won't be able to do some functions to apply some functions on the republic and some functions on the monarchy.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have two different things, but they can share a lot of things.
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm loving the possibilities here. This is super exciting. I can't wait to see what people do with it. Josh in the chat there is saying that we could also add a function that builds that for us, which is true. Yeah, there are so many ways to do this. So it's a very interesting thing to play around with. Like, how do we give, like, there's a term for this in education, the like progressive transfer of complexity or something like that. I can't remember the exact term right now, but the idea is that you don't have to bombard the user immediately. I mean, I think that this is true for elm-pages users right now, that when they're looking at the platform config record, it's kind of overwhelming to get all those types to line up, and it's frustrating to be working through an error message with multiple problems at once.
Yeah, in this case, the first thing that I want to have is an example that I can just copy paste.
Totally,
Please.
totally. Yeah, absolutely.
And even when we were building in the example earlier, I was thinking I want an example. Just copy paste it from somewhere that
Right,
works.
which is why I have the elm-pages starter repo. I totally agree. Like with things like this, that's actually the main way people are going to use this. So you're right. The getting started sort of sequence of events is different than like if you get started with an Elm app, maybe you're going to write it by hand, in which case you want a really gradual ramp that gets you writing these things without having to write a whole browser.application and do your routing and on-page change and stuff. But yeah.
Can I
Yes.
can I try something?
Sure.
Can,
We're getting
so
towards the
in
end of our time box here. So yeah, what
yeah.
last thing?
So for instance, init is a mandatory property of the builder of the application, right?
Yes.
Go ahead, commit.
Yes.
So what do you think about moving it out of the init function? Well, let's remove the view function from the init. Make it a default value, whatever. Yeah, delete it and add a stub here in the init.
So it takes some stuff and some other stuff, and it
Not to do is fine, I guess.
returns stack HTTP succeed view. You'd need a stub view.
Yeah, debug to do for now. It's fine. But yeah, you would need a HTML text empty.
Yeah.
Okay. But I want to be able to let people add a view using a builder. So let's add that one real quick.
Something like this?
Yeah. No, that one just leave builder state. Oh yeah, sure. We can only add one.
Yeah.
So let's go to the init function and can add view to the, so that we can call with view. Yeah. And now go to the to platform. Oh yeah, fix the errors first.
I think we're good now. Yeah.
Okay. And now I want people to specify a view before building an application.
Okay.
So what we can do is into application. So you've got a builder with builder state. And you want a builder state that has added view.
So basically your idea is that as you add init and update and all these things, it's going to affect the type that your view is going to need to have.
Yeah. So in the to application, so which is the exit point of your builder, you want to set a few constraints. Like I want a view, I want init, I want whatever. Whatever is required, and that you haven't provided in the init function already. So here the builder state, you would change it to a record that starts with builder states and has view, which is something that gets added in the with view function.
The to application, it starts with builder state?
Yeah, and then builder state pipe.
Here?
Yeah. Pipe. No, it's a record. It starts with builder state, pipe, and has view. Colon. Yeah. Has view. And go to with view. To the with view function. And in the resulting builder state, you say that it's a builder state with add view. So in the results, in the return value. So has view. So here we remove can add view and we add with view or has view.
Right.
And now this won't compile because you have not added with view. And you can make a lot of required things semi-optional, or you can allow them to be added as you go.
Right. Right. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, I think we're gonna have to leave it at that because we are at our time. But
I think so.
this was amazing. Thank you so much, Jeroen, for sharing this technique and joining us. This was great. And
Yeah.
anything you want
Thank you
to
for
share? Where can we follow you and find out more updates? Where can we find your blog posts?
My blog posts are at jfmengels.net. There's not a lot of blog posts yet, but I have a lot of them prepared, or drafts. You can hit me on Slack at jfmengels too.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much,
Don't-
Jeroen.
And expect Elm Review version 2 with a lot of very cool things soon.
Exciting. And some might be cool to check out the source code for some instances of the Phantom Builder pattern too.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just the packages website.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jeroen. And everybody who joined us, thank you so much. We'll be doing more of these. So feedback is very welcome. Let me know what you think on Slack, Twitter. Find more upcoming posts on this always up-to-date site. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining. Bye, everybody.
Bye.